Welcome to Courage on the Rocks, a space where stories flow like a good glass of whiskey. We're two best friends pulling back the curtain on all the conversations that usually happen behind closed doors.
From grief and love to dating, friendship, motherhood, and all the chaos of life in your 30s. We're diving into it all with honesty, humor, and a splash of courage.
This podcast is about real stories, ours, yours, and the incredible people we'll meet along the way. Whether you're here for inspiration, a fresh perspective, or just to hear from someone who gets it, we're glad you're with us.
So grab your favorite drink, hit play, and join us as we navigate the highs, the lows, and everything in between, one episode at a time.
All right. Need some wine.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. That's crazy. That's nuts. This is a Kim Crawford Sauvignon Blanc. That is our drink choice for today, and it is needed.
Yeah, it's a good one. Nice white wine.
Oh, yeah. Just chug that real quick. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for episode 3. Crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
Interesting how fast it's going by.
I know. I don't know if we're making it that fast or what.
Right? Maybe time just goes like that.
Time. Busier. We're busier now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this episode, we are not doing what we planned originally to do.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. What we're going to talk about is something that actually happened in episode 2. And it was something that kind of really shook me emotionally. And it happened while we were recording. And recording is very new for us. And one of the things that we really wanted to show you guys when making this podcast and doing episodes is that it's okay to be vulnerable. And it's okay to talk about hard things, not just to do them, but to talk about them. And talking has been really helpful with my healing journey. And I learned I'm a verbal processor. Some people are not verbal processors, but I am, and I find a huge value in that. So episode 2, there was a moment where Liana kind of just called me out. And
In a kind way.
Okay, hold on. In a kind way, in a way that I'm sitting there like, wow, how did I get so lucky to have you as a friend? It was one of those moments where I don't think, a lot of people would even say that. It felt so like genuine, but it was really powerful to me. And in the moment, I was just so detached from my emotions, and Liana was like, stop. So basically what happened was I just started talking about the loss of Jorge, and I was struggling to kind of find words for it. And I had said something to the effect of, losing him was the hardest thing that we had ever done and faced in our life. And she, paused me and said, well, yes, but hold on. Like, that was the hardest thing that you ever did, right? Like, it was hard for her, obviously.
Yeah.
But the experience wasn't the same.
Yeah. I think in my head in that moment, when you had said that, I was like, I paused. I was like, no. Let's clarify.
You said own it.
Yeah, own it. Because I knew Jorge as a great friend. I knew him as an amazing father and husband, as, all these great things from an outside perspective. So losing him, I was devastated for you and for his family and everything, right? But when you were at the heart of it, you were at the center of it. And so like when you had mentioned like that we had lost the biggest part, or like mentioned that, I was like, no, like you've got to own that. That's your story. That's your magnitude loss. Your what you thought was center and grounding shook for you.
Yeah. In that moment, one, I wasn't expecting you to say that, right? And two, you had like brought me into an awareness that I didn't have before, and I couldn't shake that. What had happened was you said that. I responded in like just a natural laugh of like, oh fuck, you're right. Like I'm laughing because in my head I'm saying, oh, she's totally right. She just called me out on that. But then you keep talking and I'm realizing like I'm hit with, oh, I'm really sad right now. I don't know why I'm doing this. Why did I just do that? And I didn't have words for that. And it really bothered me. Like even as we were like doing the podcast, I didn't say pause. Hey, let me look into that. Let me kind of reflect really quickly. I just kind of like skimmed past it and just kept on going because we're live,
Right?
It's recording. And that's what's expected of me. But what I wish I would have done was actually like allowed myself to tap into the emotions that were just begging to come out. But I didn't. I had a pretty big wall up. And the wall was there because right before we started recording, I had gotten to your house and I had something that I needed to get off my chest. I had a close friend from graduate school pass away super unexpectedly, and I had just found out the day before. And I really didn't even have time to process the loss. And coming here, I knew, okay, I know we're not talking about loss specifically. We're talking about rock climbing in episode 2. But I have something really heavy on my heart and I need to talk to her about it. So we're standing in the kitchen and I finally first time really telling someone about the loss of a friend that just happened. And as I'm telling her, I'm actually allowing myself to cry and get emotions out. And I felt so sad, not just because of the loss, but because in that moment I realized how lonely I was. That I didn't have that close person in my life who used to be my husband. I didn't have that person anymore to call and say, hey, I'm so hurt right now. I lost someone that was a beautiful person in this life. And I just need someone to sit there with me, And when I was telling you that, it's I forget that sometimes because I don't go through I don't need that all the time.
No.
But when I do need it, it's not there until I find you, Yeah. And so then we come in to record this podcast and I immediately, in my head's my body just put up this wall between my heart and my mind. My mind's okay, I know what we're talking about. We're not scripted. We have general ideas. But there was a wall and I was we're not going in deep, so you don't have to, Mariah, it's okay. And then we start talking and I go in with this cognitive knowledge approach of okay, this is our structure. But then when we get to the part about Jorge and talking about the loss, I'm talking from the brain aspect, but then as we're literally in that moment and you call me out, my heart screams what the fuck, Mariah? What are you doing? This is a heart thing right now. It's not about the brain, it's about the heart and it's about feelings. And here's an opportunity to share those with people, and I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, also, like you said, this is a work in progress. This is something that we're always going to be just working on, of being able to share right in this moment what we're feeling. And that's so vulnerable, at the time, maybe we could have been okay, let's take a pause on everything, all the notes we were just writing about what this episode is going to be about, really tap into in this moment, this is what I'm feeling. Because like we said, this is unfiltered for a reason. These are conversations that people need to witness and need to understand this, it's okay. It's okay to take pause on other things. It's no, this is what I'm really feeling. And I think it's just, I was very grateful that when you had came to my house, we were talking about what the episode's gonna be and blah, blah, blah and everything. And then you were I have something I want to talk about. It's just been weighing on me. And I was oh my gosh, we're pausing and really reflecting on what you're feeling right now. And that needs to happen here on the podcast as well. If I said something, you said something that okay, we need to tap into that. Forget the notes, forget the outline. I mean, it's gonna go as long as it needs to, but at the same time, it's gonna go in a way that's meant to be. Even if it's scripted or not. So
I think that translates to life. right?
Yes.
Like we're so like
Yeah.
on the go. This is what's happening. That like when do you like stop to like actually like listen to what your body or your heart is telling you,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you just need to like slow down and make that space.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into this thing that I learned, right? So like I experienced this moment with you, and in the moment I said to myself, I don't know what just happened, but I know there's a word for it, and I know I need to talk about it in therapy. Like I literally left here and was like, Wednesday I'm talking about in therapy, like I can't let this go. Because I knew that what had happened was showing me a piece of my healing journey that I needed to work on.
Yeah, it triggered something.
It did. I didn't know what. I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Like I have this feeling and this motion. Like,
yeah, I was so uncomfortable. I was
Yeah.
so uncomfortable in that moment. And so I get into therapy and I literally pull up the video and I have her watch it. My therapist is amazing, by the way. And I'm like, I know there's a word for this. And she watches it. She's like, okay, so this is disassociation. And what's funny is like, I know I disassociate, not as much as a lot of people in my life do when it comes to the loss of Jorge and their own approach to healing, right? But I occasionally will disassociate, but I didn't know what that word was or what I was doing in it.
Yeah, and to what degree?
And to what degree. And like the way that my therapist described it was like, well, one, in the interaction with you in episode 2, I was just giving you a patterned response, right?
Yeah.
And I was disassociating because it was preservation. Yeah, self-preservation, right? And I think so many of us do that.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Depending on who we're facing and the conversations and like the event. So our brains are constantly going. Our brains are constantly like trying to figure out what's the next way, 3 steps ahead. What's gonna happen? What's gonna protect us? What do we need to face right now? And what needs to get done? You know? So yeah.
I think like I think there are times where I'm like, oh yeah, like I will sit in this, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's alone. And sometimes, more often than anyone else, I will bring you into it and say, can you sit with me? Adding a camera, that's like a third person. And I didn't anticipate having that experience. But I think for me, I'm learning to, part of this podcast is it's not just to share our story with you guys. And the story is not, Mariah is healed and she is a perfect example of healing. Yeah. That's not the story.
Congratulations.
That is not what you take from this.
No.
It's to show you what healing can look like.
Well, another version of it.
Another version. And your version is different than my version.
Absolutely.
You know? But like, there's a moment in the second podcast where we had that experience and I thought to myself, like, man, I thought I was supposed to be more healed than this, right? Like, it was that narrative of like, fuck, you were supposed to be better than that. You're doing a podcast, right? It's bullshit. It's a bullshit narrative.
Don't think that.
You know? But like, but, you know, I can be hard on myself too, right? But it's like, healing is not linear. Healing doesn't end, right? But it starts, right? You can choose to start it. You can choose to keep going. You can choose to keep doing it.
And acknowledging it.
But it doesn't end, right?
Yeah. So it's so multifaceted. Yeah. And it comes up at the, you know.
Worst moments. When you're recording a podcast, it comes up and says, look at me. And I'm like, no, eyes are on me. I have to be perfect.
Yeah, I have to like be in a certain position because we had made a plan and stuff. But grief comes in waves and, you know, just a word someone says could be a trigger, a smell, an event. You know, you could be shopping and someone says something, you're like, whoa, that reminded me of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. You know, and then you could just be like, what the hell just happened?
The triggers are everywhere. And like, I've had family who have said, you know, I started your podcast, but 2 minutes and I was triggered, you know, and I haven't been able to do it. And, you know, like 2 days later, I tried again and I was triggered. And I mean, like, I get that, but at the same time, it's like, God, man, I can be walking around and be triggered all day, right?
Yes.
You don't have to do a whole lot to really trigger me, right?
Yeah.
But because I forced myself to sit in it,
In the uncomfortable.
right? That the triggers aren't so like jerking, you know?
Yeah.
And like now I can like listen to like Zach Bryan's song, like East Side of Sorrow,
Oh my
and like
gosh.
the phrase, I lost you in a waiting room after a week or two. Like, I was in that waiting room. I remember when that song came out, I literally messaged you and Heather, and I was like, did you guys listen to this? Because, like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm dying inside right now. Because I felt that so to my core, right? There are things all around me that are triggering, or that can be triggering.
Yeah.
And, like, 2 years later, I'm like, I can sit with you, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, it's the thing of, like, healing is, like, are you willing to sit in it? Are you willing to sit in it and say hello? And I think in that moment, in episode 2, when he said, "Whoa, Mariah, stop. You need to own it. This was you.
Your loss.
This was your loss, right?" I think there's a version of like Mariah inside that says like that is like asking to be acknowledged sometimes and say like, "Hey, sit with me," right?
Yeah.
Can you sit in this for a minute because I need you, you know?
And acknowledge what she has done.
Yeah.
You know? Because, like, I feel like the past, year and a half, almost 2 years now, is just heal myself, do this, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, pause. Like, acknowledge the fact, like, you've done the work.
Yeah, like,
You're doing the work, and you will continue to do the work. You and I know so often when something like this magnitude happens, people don't put in the work.
No.
And they don't understand, when people do come up to you and say, I couldn't listen to it all. Well, why couldn't you?
Yeah.
Try to figure out, not the fault of yours, not your story.
No.
It's them. Like, why are they not able to do that?
Yeah.
And that's their story. Their story of they're unable to listen to something is because they haven't healed that part of themselves yet.
Yeah. They haven't healed that part of themselves.
They're working on it. They're working on their journey. You're on yours.
Yeah.
So.
I think when I said like hardest thing that Leon and I have ever done, right? It's like there's this really deep dark hole that you go into when you lose someone. Depending on how close that person is to you, that hole gets really deeper and darker, right? I think there are kind of 2 relationships where that hole is immensely deep and dark, and that's if you lose a spouse or if you lose a child, right? Those are, for me, like 2 of the hardest things that like anyone can grasp in their life. And for me, I didn't always have anyone in that hole. It's a very lonely hole, you know? And like I knew I could always ask you to come into it.
Yeah.
And you would willingly be like, yeah, I will crawl down into that dirty ass bottom of that hole. But you would have a flashlight and say, hey, I got light. Like, we can see the light. Or, hey, here's a ladder if you want it, right? Like, you would willingly put yourself in that spot. And there are a lot of people who would willingly put themselves in that spot with me.
Yeah.
But you are one of very few people who I trust more than anything in this world, and I would let you in to that piece that was absolutely destroyed, right? And so when I say like it's the hardest thing it's like I know what loneliness feels like, and there's a comfort knowing that you're always with me. Like I can't do this podcast without you, not just because of the friendships piece, but because like emotionally, like you have been my rock. Since he died, right? But at the same time, there are moments where I don't invite you into that hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And that's the part where I have to own it because
That's the part I'm not privileged to see. No one else would have been able to see except for the one person who's not here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the one other person who's here, Leo, he's not ready. He is not. And yeah.
I think like when it comes to healing, like we all have a choice to make. And like, I think every day you're making that choice whether or not to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But like when it happened, when we lost him, I was making choices to heal before I even left the hospital room.
100%.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I made choices that were, one, no one else had to make those choices. And I had to make the choice to make the choice.
Yeah, no. And I don't think anybody would have thought to make
No.
those decisions and make those comments or make those choices.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. I remember like, so before we even officially, he was pronounced like brain dead, right? I had already scheduled a appointment with my therapist. And I remember sitting in the room, in the waiting room on Zoom with my therapist and telling her everything that had happened, right? And making sure that like I had 2 to 3 appointments every single week until I was ready to lessen that, right? Mm-hmm. I remember before I even like left the hospital, I made sure, this is super vulnerable to share, I made sure to have like where we own guns, right? So I had any weapon removed from my house, like any gun, anything that could harm me, any like Vicodins or anything that I can take, right? Like I knew how exposed I was to harming myself. And so I like made sure that like everything was completely gone, right?
Yeah, you didn't have access to it.
I didn't have access to it. Did it ever come to that point where I wanted to do that? No. But I also put in a shit ton of mechanisms to make sure I didn't do that, right? But that wasn't anybody else. That was me making sure that I was going to be around for my son, right? Like no one was with me like in the nights where I would be like laying next to Leo. You guys are all there during the day, but at night, that's when it was the worst, right? Like I would be sleeping in the bed next to Leo and I would look over knowing that his dad was supposed to be right there. His dad was just there a week ago, warming up his side of the bed, and he wasn't there anymore. And I would go into like these really deep, intense anxiety attacks, panic attacks as a mother with my son asleep next to me. Like no one, like I had to be the person to pull myself out of that. I had to be the person to like talk myself through that, to put in mechanisms in place to make sure I knew what to do when things got really, really bad. Because no one was there. It was just me. And I did all of that. And I chose to work on myself every single day to make sure I could be this version right here who's able to share those stories, right? Because no one's gonna do the work for you. And I think that so many people, and I know this because I see it in my own life, like so many people will sit there and just let the grief like consume them, They refuse to choose joy. They refuse to sit in joy and grief together, comfort and discomfort together, And so, like, I just really want to encourage people that, like, you can sit in it and it's not supposed to be comfortable. It's not supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel lonely. And for me, when I was in my darkest moments, that's when I learned that I didn't have anybody except for God, right? And so like me and you've seen my journey and relationship with like religion grow, because in the darkest moments, in the deepest valleys, when I had absolutely nothing, I had God, and God showed me that he had me, right? I would ask and I would receive. That's how it worked. And that's why Psalm 23 is important to me. You're wearing a sweater that says Psalm 23, and it has our logo on it, and it's super freaking cute. But it's all about being in the darkest of valleys and knowing that you're not alone, that you are safe because of him. And when I didn't have you or my sister or Nicole or the people who kept me alive, it was God who basically was that foundation, and showed me that I was going to survive it.
Yeah. Wow. It's just, I think it's really beautiful that you are sharing that part of it. I don't think a lot of people would have. Try not to cry and choke at the same time. I know. Yeah. It's to go back to what triggered all of this conversation. I think for me, I didn't want to hear you mitigate or think that our grief or our loss was the same. And I think that's what stopped me.
Yeah.
Because while it was the same person, the magnitude in which he was in relations to you was so different than his family and friends and colleagues. And I wanted people to highlight that. I wanted to highlight that, like, you put it in work, you own it. You had this grief, you have this loss. That was a part of your life, and it will continue to be a part of your life. In what, what size, we talk about, you have taken both. You have taken the grief and the joy of living, learning to live, learning to find joy, learning to see life through Leo's eyes, still talking to God, still praying to Him, still having that communication and being willingness to say, I am really fucking sad. Yeah. I am really fucking, like, not a single person on this planet can help me. What do I do?
Yeah.
And like, you had the mental capacity to take the harmful things out of your life, but you acknowledged the fact that, like, the one thing that was there was God for you in all aspects, because you knew the days after his passing, the months after, the years that you will need him in your life, that reassurance, that constant communication, that love, and knowing that, like, even the worldly people, when we're gone, you still have him.
Yeah.
I think it's just really interesting also to be able to show this part to other people. You and I never know what's going to happen to our viewers tomorrow, the next day. We're not gifted and we're not privileged with that knowledge. So if someone can witness your hardest and deepest and most vulnerable time, in the event that they should go through something like that, or God forbid something else like that happens, you know how to work through it. You know how to not let it wallow you, not let it consume you. And when you shared with me about your graduate school friend passing away, you acknowledged it, you faced it, you felt the sadness, you felt the grief, you felt the loss. And like, I'll be okay. You sat with it. You allowed it to become a part of you. And then you walked through life, moved on with your life as well. Yeah. It's just, you can't, I'm not sure, like, from your, as a friend perspective from it as well, sometimes events like that, like, of course, you call, text, anything you needed. The years after that, I was like, boom, Mariah needed something, let's get that fixed. Like, we need to solve this problem, let's get that fixed. An anniversary is coming up, how do we solve that? Like, those things that was nothing. That was so, like, I can do that. But the nights, like you said, the nights where no one else Everyone was sleeping. Everyone was supposed to reset their lives. But your life was still like in this, hanging in the balance. You were in it. You were still in this darkness. And to be able to show that to people as well, be that vulnerable, it's just, I think that's why we created this. And I think that's why at this time, this podcast came into our life. This period of our life where we have made the healing journey. We have acknowledged it. We had made space for it. We had brought other things into our life to create substance for this podcast. You know, because I feel sometimes you have books on grief and you have podcasts on grief and you have all these other things, but that's just one part of you. It's a huge part of you right now, just because that's currently going on in your life right now. You're still working on that, right?
Yeah.
But we're more than that as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to navigate that because, like, it is a huge part of my life, but it's going to always be like that because, like, Leo, you know?
Yes.
And so I was just on a date on, God, I don't even know what today is anymore. I was on a date on Sunday. And I was kind of explaining to him, like, this wasn't a first date. So thankfully we had been able to talk a bit more and he knew some things, but explaining to him that I was never not going to love Jorge. Like, that was always going to be it. I will always love him. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop myself from allowing myself to fall in love if that opportunity presented itself.
And be loved.
And to be loved, right? Like, why should I move forward and not allow myself to be loved because I lost someone that was completely out of my control? No. Right?
And he would not have wanted that.
He wouldn't have wanted that. No. And if the roles were reversed, I wouldn't have wanted that for him either.
No.
Like, being loved by him taught me that one of the most important things that we can experience and be and do as human beings is to be loved and love others.
Absolutely.
For me, it's specifically in the way that God would do it, which is like all encompassing, right? Like, but I was 28 when I lost him. I'm not gonna not fight for a life that I know I deserve. Because some horrible shit happened to me. Like, that's not okay in itself, right?
No, you cannot, that cannot be your story.
That's not my story.
That cannot, my husband died, the end.
The end? No, it's not the fucking end. Are you kidding me? No,
the
right?
End. Yeah.
But I will love him and honor him for the rest of my freaking being.
Yeah.
While also having the capacity to love somebody else.
And be loved by someone.
Loved. Yeah, and be loved by someone else, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if our hearts are so large enough that we can bring in friends and family and colleagues and children who have, you know, changed our lives, then our hearts are strong enough to withstand the heartache and the brokenness of it, to heal and find someone else.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot tell me that losing a husband is the end all be all.
It can't be.
At 28, there is no way that is the story, your story.
Right.
There might be for some people out there because like that's just how they want to live their life, or that's just how they understand their life right now. But like as your best friend, oh my gosh, when you like came to me with this idea a few months ago that, hey, I'm ready. Like, I need to be loved. I want to love. I have this amazing heart. I want to share it. I'm like, let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. And download.
Downloading the apps.
Because it just makes your life so much richer.
It does.
You have to make it so much more full. And yeah, I mean, and I'm experiencing that be loved part. You and I both know, like, I have fought tooth and nail for it. All through my 20s for it.
Yes.
You know, and then there are like multiple times where I would come crying to you, be like, I am not loved. Not in the way that you and I have talked about. Like, why is this not happening for me?
Yeah.
You know, and then like to sit into that uncomfortable, be that third wheel everywhere I went for all my life, you know, until I found my person. And now I really know what it's like to be loved.
And I'm third wheel.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's okay. It is. Yeah. So Oh, we got to drink. If you toast.
Oh,
you
oops, we toasted. Chug, chug, chug. Should pretty much close it down on that one.
Yeah.
I needed some wine.
But yeah, I think it's just a good journey to start with. And I'm glad that you brought this together of like, hey, I worked in therapy with it. I need to have a conversation. And I need to let our viewers know exactly what I'm feeling. Because, at the end of the day, that's what we were telling them. Yeah. We were telling you guys.
Be brave.
Be brave. Be vulnerable. Be authentic.
Sit in it.
Yeah.
All the things that I didn't do, but I'm showing you right now that you can do and it's okay.
Yeah.
And you will survive.
Yeah.
And be better for it.
Exactly. And it doesn't break you.
No. It makes you so much.
Yeah. And it makes you realize that, like, when you see that and hear that again, you're like, I can deal with it. Like, oh wait, let's focus on that. Like, that really hit me. Like, that was so powerful. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Ask me some questions on that. Dig deep. Force it out of me.
Exactly. Because, like you said, you are a verbal person.
I am.
You heal when you are talking.
Yeah.
You and I are both very good at, like, gravitating to each other to talk about it. Like, when I am like, okay, this is not a rock climbing day. This is a session where we just talk.
Right.
Because, like, I can just see it, you know? And it's just, you have to find those people. You have to find that person where you can talk to and you can have a safe space. Even if it's just your therapist or your parents or your siblings or a friend. Because living with that uncomfortability is just going to eat you alive. And it would have just been like, every episode, if you had not brought it up, every episode would have been like, oh, why didn't I say something like that? Why didn't I, mention it? Why does it feel uncomfortable right now?
Exactly.
You know.
It's a practice. You
Exactly.
know. You're constantly working at it. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like you're constantly like I've grown so much from the very beginning since everything happened. But there are still moments where, like, literally, like in episode 2, where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. Oh, why am I being triggered right now? Oh, but, like, knowing that you're okay, that you don't have to dissociate, right? And that the more we practice not disassociating and sitting in it and saying, hey, I'm Mariah. Like, what's your name?
Yeah.
Like,
and acknowledging like that was that.
I see you and I hear you and I can sit with you for a minute.
Yeah, like
right?
let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah. It's also like so loving to yourself.
Oh yeah.
Like healing is showing yourself love.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like healing as in like I feel like it's coming out like, oh, you did it.
Yeah, like a little cheerleader.
All done. Woohoo! No, it's like sitting in it slowly, like marinating in that process and like slowly, it's like moving forward at a fucking snail rate sometimes, right? Yeah. Like through the mud and like it's so hard, but it's like you're getting closer and closer to just being okay. And eventually you are okay. And then eventually you're not just okay. You're like, I'm thriving. Like, it's weird to say I'm thriving after losing someone who meant so much to me, right? But the growth from that and what I have done for myself, right?
Absolutely.
To allow myself to get to this point, to
acknowledge
love myself.
that shit.
I fucking did it,
You
right?
did it.
That was me. That was
you
nobody else.
You were in the ring.
That was me in the ring. Fighting that monstrous bull.
Oh my God.
That was looking to rip me apart.
Every day.
Every
Motherhood,
single
boom.
day. Yeah.
Widow, boom.
Bam,
work, boom.
Right? Boom, 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 boom. Right? More loss, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I was like, eventually, one time I was sitting in therapy and I was telling her, like, I feel like if I can handle anything at this point, like, fucking come at me. And she's like, whoa, we're not manifesting this in life. And you're like, you're right, we're not. But like, I can handle a lot, you know? And I'm so proud of that. Yeah. I really am.
Yeah, the work that you put into it.
Yeah.
It pays off now. Yeah. You are seeing the fruits of your labor.
I am. Yeah. I am. Yeah.
Good for you.
That's right.
That's a high five
right.
for her. Doesn't mean she won't continue to be working.
No. And I'll definitely be crying. And there will be like, it's literally like this, right? When I was talking about it with my therapist, there's a really like viral reel that went around of, it was like this, improv dance, like beautiful thing where it's like you have stairs, but the guy would like walk up a few steps, fall down, hit a trampoline, get back on the steps, walk up, go back down, fall, and it's like this show of like what it's like to heal and to accomplish your goals and things like that. Of like it's not linear. You don't just walk up the stairs and open the door and I'm healed.
Yeah, like right? I do the work, I'm done.
I'm done. No, it's like, got a couple steps. I feel so good. Oh, what is happening? Why do I feel so rough right now? This hurts. Yeah. Going back a few steps, going up 5, going back 10. Yeah. Right? It's like up and down. Yeah. But it's like it's not this linear thing that, you can measure.
Oh yeah, and like when you were talking about that story, it reminds me like that person's constantly moving.
Yes.
They're moving, like they're not, even if they're like taking steps back, they're still moving their body. Yeah. They're still willing to put themselves out there. They're still willing to wake up every morning and say, good morning. Thank you for, giving me alive. And here we go. Here's another day,
I got another shot.
You get another chance, another day to work through your shit. Be fucking painful that day. But you get another chance.
It is, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I don't think enough people understand that it's worth it. Not enough people understand how much better it can be when you give love to yourself. You allow yourself to heal. You allow yourself to sit in it, to work through it. Like you're giving yourself to your jobs. You're giving yourself to all these other things that don't matter. The only person at the end of the day that's going to sit with you in the very dark hole in the middle of the night, it's gonna be you. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you can handle it. Yeah. Right? Make sure you build yourself with enough courage, enough bravery, enough strength, enough knowledge to make sure you can fucking not just survive it, but come out better.
Oh yeah, thrive from it.
Thrive. Yeah.
It reminded me, a good friend of mine posted something talking about how teachers it's a career, but not the definition of your life. Yes. Because so many people in my...
Cheers to that
Cheers that. Yes. Cheers to all my teacher colleagues and friends. Oh my gosh.
You guys are the unsaid heroes of the freaking world.
Yeah. They like every day we are constantly putting so much amount of effort into a career. Yeah. Like the things that teachers do for students and nobody else can see unless you're a teacher. Yep. The things that you do for yourself to heal, nobody else will understand unless they have done it. Yeah. Unless they have done the work. Yeah. So don't let it define you. No. You've got to thrive from it. You've got to like take those breaks. Like there's a reason why we have hours in the classroom and there's a reason why we get weekends. There's a reason why there's a reason why I get my summer breaks, okay?
So if you want to fucking go, let's go.
I mean, I still teach summer school, so. But either way,
you gotta get that money.
We still gotta get paid, But the thing, what I'm trying to say is, don't let it define you. Yeah. My career is only so much, but my life and what I do outside of 5 o'clock at night is who I am. Yeah. It's my definition of me. It's how I thrive, And I think also like, I am just appreciative of also my principal that I have. Yeah. She understands that boundaries as well. We're like, I'm going. I'm off the clock. I'm gonna go rock climb. That meeting can wait until tomorrow, or that email can wait. Because like I'm taking care of myself. Yeah. Because I know I need to be here tomorrow and the next day and the next day after for my students, for my boyfriend, for my house, for my friends. Like I have to be here for them and for myself. So if I risk it on a meeting or on an email or a couple of hours in the classroom, like it's not worth it to me.
No, it's
Take
not.
care of myself.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Choose you.
Exactly. Heal you.
Heal you. Oh, I feel I can see it. Choose you, heal you. That's our podcast.
And done.
Done.
Episode 3.
Yeah.
Good job.
That was a good one.
Cheers.
Yeah, that was real.
Yeah.
They're all real, but that one was.
That was a good one. And that was
necessary.
You acknowledging like, hey, I need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what it should be.
Yeah.
It should. It would be like, hey, no, because rock climbing will be there.
Yeah.
But like this conversation, this opportunity to have this and record it and like sit with it, that wasn't going to happen again unless we made it happen.
That's why I was like, you know what? Fuck rock climbing. Let's record.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it will always be there.
It will be. Because I was going to talk to you about it in rock climbing anyways.
Yeah, but this is different.
It's very different.
Yeah, and at least this way also it allows you to like really sit into it and not be distracted. Like, okay, we're gonna go climb, and then let me think about it. And like at that time also then allows you to filter through like, okay, what am I gonna share? What part did I miss? Whereas this one, like, it's all written down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I want it to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
You know.
And like in ways that we have had conversations before.
Yeah, exactly. So they can like actually see it. Because we were gonna have it regardless. It was just whether it was recorded or not.
Exactly.
You know. But like the whole mission of our podcast is to record.
Yeah, and to share. To share those moments. To say, hey, like, this is what we're feeling.
Yeah.
That triggered me. I want to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
You know, because like people would have listened to episode 2 and like, oh, no big deal.
Right.
Like, hey, that was a great episode.
Right.
But didn't hear that one piece
that
led to episode 3.
Exactly.
You know, now they could go back and be like, whoa, I see that differently.
I see that now.
I see how like, oh, I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
You know, so good job.
It's true.
Way to be brave. Yay.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for tuning into Courage on the Rocks.
Until next time, hold on to your courage and we'll see you soon. Cheers!